Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And it's a pleasure to join in this debate about our library systems and the regional libraries and the public libraries. First off, I'd like to thank the member from Lakeview for directing some people to our office to talk about the library systems, because we had some phone calls in our office and we know that these decisions that we made during the budget we didn't take lightly. And Mr. Speaker, I wish there was a magic money tree and that we could fund everything, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but we had to make some difficult decisions in this budget. One of the decisions we made was to reduce spending to regional libraries, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We want to work with our libraries to adjust how they deliver their services within the available funding levels. Our focus is on supporting things like electronic resources, interlibrary loan, and community net. It is our hope that local libraries will work with their municipalities and school divisions to find new ways of delivering these services, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I have 3 kids, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and my wife has met people at the library and used some of the services that they offer, and they're good. And they see families there from around Regina, and their friends go there, and they can get together. And like the member from Saskatoon Rivers will say, it's a place where people can gather, and those spaces are still going to be there, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Let's not think that every library in the province is going to shut down due to these decisions that we've made. I don't think that's right to put that view out there in the public. I think it's a little bit of fear-mongering, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We know that these are tough decisions, and because we have a $1.2 billion hole in our budget, we had to make some of these decisions. Think about words our former Finance Minister, Mr. Danforth, said, and he said when we're talking about budgets and the government goes over caucus finalization and cabinet finalization, these aren't decisions made between good and bad ideas. The government has to make decisions between good ideas, and sometimes you can't fund every good idea, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And that's something we're going through right now in our fiscal situation, where we have a $1.2 billion revenue shortfall, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And we've seen what our priorities are in this budget. Our priorities are health care, education, and social services. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, 75 cents of every dollar goes into that. Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I hear the member from Saskatoon Centre heckling over here, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and to the member from Saskatoon Centre, in my budget speech, I don't know if you heard it, I quoted him and I said, when he was the minister, he said, we had to make hard decisions when they were in government. And I gave him credit for that. He said, we had to make hard decisions. And one of those decisions when he was a minister was they had to lay off 500 people. Ooh. And I give him credit. He said that was a very tough decision, and because they're in tough financial times. And I said sometimes these decisions, I know he didn't want to make those choices. I know that. I think he's a good guy. I know he didn't want to have to make those decisions. And sometimes when you're in government, you have to make tough choices, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And this budget was full of those decisions that we didn't want to make, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And tough choices that we looked at the people of the province of Saskatchewan. We had our priorities: health care, education, social services, 75 cents of every dollar. And then we continued our commitments of building 2 new schools in Weyburn and Rostern. And you can see our priorities of building new schools, planning money for 2 new schools, 40 new schools over the last 10 years, Mr. Deputy Speaker. 21 new schools are opening in this province this year, this fall. And the members opposite fearmonger again and say, well, those schools aren't going to have desks or teachers. Mr. Deputy Speaker, why would you open new schools and not have desks and teachers? That's just more hyperbole coming from the side opposite. And when they had to make tough decisions in the 90s, they made some really interesting choices. We decided to try and work with our partners. Yes, we reduced some funding to libraries. We reduced funding in Regina and Saskatoon. And Mr. Speaker, those numbers in Regina and Saskatoon, the Regina Public Library budget is $21,499,000. Their municipal grant is $19,699,000. The municipal grant is 92% of their funding. Our provincial grant is $597,000. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the provincial portion of funding for Regina Public Library is 2.75%. And I know what we are asking our partners to find that shortfall, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and that I know that those are tough decisions they're going to have to make, and they're going to have to look at some efficiencies within that system. But we're asking them to find 2.75%. Our finance minister had to find 10% of revenue shortfall across the province in a provincial budget. Those are where those tough choices come from. And our social services minister has to make some of these decisions on her budget. And there's going to be some increased utilization. And we're going to have to try some efficiencies in those budgets as well, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I think we've proven very good partners with our third-party entities over the last 10 years. When the funds were there, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when the funds were there, we were there for our partners. And we increased revenue sharing across Saskatchewan. In our city of Regina, we increased revenue sharing by 157%. When we had the funds there, we were there with our partners. And we're asking, when we have a shortfall, we're asking for them to help find some efficiencies as well. And I think that is fair. And I think when we've been good partners when we've had the opportunity and we've had the revenue. And I think when the good times are good, we share it in revenue, and when times are bad, we're going to have to share in some reductions and finding some efficiencies, Mr. Deputy Speaker. But on to priorities. Members across the way like to heckle and yell about our priorities, and this budget sure does show their priorities, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Well, it does. We do show our priorities, and I used a quote from Mr. Biden. He said, "Don't tell me your priorities, show me your budget, and I'll tell you yours." And we've done that with healthcare, education, and social services. And the members can heckle across, and the member from Lakeview who recently found her rural Saskatchewan stripe, and she'd been to Fox Valley once in 27 years, and she can come across and tell us all about rural Saskatchewan, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And well, here's some things in rural Saskatchewan that her party did. It was quite amazing. Back when they had to make tough choices, and the member from Saskatoon Centre was there, the member from Elphinstone was there. There was tough choices they made as government, and their choices included closing 176 schools, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Neville School, Admiral School, Piapot School, Lang School, Earl Grey School, Sauer Elementary School, Grey Elementary School, Wilcox Public School, Francis School, Odessa School, Glenavon School, Ecole Ross School, Moose Jaw, Willowbunch School, Briarcrest School, Crane Valley School, Limerick School, McDowell School, Prince Charles School, Smeaton School, Sylvanian School, Broadway Elementary School, Camsell Portage School, Isaac School, Griffin School, Golden Prairie School, Winthorpe School, Lintlaw Oakla School, Endeavour School, Pleasantdale School Central, Denzel Sacred Heart, Sunningdale School, Centennial Park Education Center, Elida School, Gainsborough School, Willowbrook School, St. James School, Door Lake School, St. John School, Benson School, Margaret McClung School, Simpson School, Radisson School, Dodgeland School. I might run out of time here, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'll just jump forward a few more. Cadillac School, Brock Elementary School, Buffalo Hills School, Minto School, Langbank School, Bredenberry School. I think there's still people in Bredenberry. Spalding School, Sheeho School. Actually, my brother-in-law and my wife went to Sheeho School for a bit until it was closed. Tramping Lake School, Neville School. Tramping Lake, I think, minister for, Bigger Elementary. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there's a lot of names on this list of schools that were closed. Libraries in them. And I'm guessing, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing there's libraries in those schools. And I'm guessing, to get back to the debate, Mr. Speaker, their priority was to close 176 schools for young people wanted to go to with libraries. Wow. That's their priorities. We've seen that in their budgets when it was tough times. We're opening schools. And we've asked our partners, and actually with libraries, and I listened on a call-in show, there's a lady from White City, there's a school being built there, and she said, she's a school board trustee, and she's like, I think we should co-locate in the school and have some efficiencies. And she was a board member out there, and she was talking on a call-in show and saying, there's efficiencies that you can find there, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I think when it comes down to it, when we talk with our partners, and we're asking to find some efficiencies because we're in tougher times. We want to work together with our third parties. We want to ask them, cooperate with them, see if they can find some savings and be a little more efficient so that we can meet the targets and make sure that we can balance our budget, because, like I said, I have 3 kids, and I want to make sure that we're paying for the services that we can have right now, and our kids don't have to pay for those services in 20 years and kick the can down the road, so we have to put more and more debt on the back of our next generation. Other provinces are doing that, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And that's what we decided not to do in this budget. It was the budget for the future, and we're going to meet the challenges, and we look forward to working with our third-party partners to meet those challenges. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will not be supporting the motion put forward by the member from Lakeview.